In a role reversal, we have the marketplace, Farfetch, investing in the retailer, Neiman Marcus, rather than the other way around, and this time to the tune of $200 million. Farfetch, luxury, good platform, public company, got about a $5.5 billion market cap, has announced that it's making a strategic minority investment into brick and mortar retailers called the Neiman Marcus Group. They're putting $200 million into this company. Obviously, COVID, took the legs out of so many retailers that, just weren't able to make it through with lack of e-commerce capability and, how heavy hit all the stores were in this period of time. The cycle has completed itself now. It's been 20 plus years. The marketplaces have risen to such a place of dominance in retail, e-commerce, right? That they are taking positions in the retailers as opposed to the retailers taking positions into the tech companies, right? It's backwards. The paradigm, it's now flipped. And I think it's really interesting because what they're also doing is saying that part of the reason why Farfetch is doing this is because Neiman Marcus is going to be a customer of this new offering called the FARFETCH Platform Solutions. If you think back into the roughly 20 years ago, Amazon was kind of doing like e-commerce, but then it was actually powering a lot of software and tools for these retailers. That's actually what Amazon was doing like within maybe the first handful of years that it was around. And then it was operating inside of these retailers and it saw such a big opportunity to do marketplace. And then they essentially kind of took those learnings, took the money, right? Those retailers were the only thing keeping Amazon alive back in the early days. That's the only reason Amazon made it through. They being paid by the retailers. And then getting all these really valuable insights. Then they did marketplace and kind of the rest is history. So it's interesting now as you see marketplace in the luxury segment here with Farfetch as one of the leaders, putting $200 million into the retailer, using this as a kind of foundational case study to say, hey, we're going to take all the tools that we've built at Farfetch to power our own marketplace, and we're now going to bring those into re-platforming, they're saying the Bergdorf Goodman website and mobile app. And obviously, the reason they're doing this is because they're going to launch this as a service, right? And they're going to try and bring this to other brands and retailers and say, hey, let Farfetch power your digital presence. And hey, look, if Bergdorf Goodman doing it, right? If you don't know what Bergdorf is, it's one of the iconic retail entities right on Fifth Avenue for decades in New York City, right? So, but they went under like so many other retailers did. And so now they're back with a fat check from Farfetch, digital enablement from Farfetch. Obviously, there's going to be some nice ways that the Farfetch marketplace and the Bergdorf Neiman Marcus kind of retail and digital experiences interact and commingle. It's just a really interesting play. Our partnership with Neiman Marcus Group is another example of how the Farfetch Platform Solutions, right? It's actually, they've got it as its own entity, got its own presence on LinkedIn, right? It's actually kind of like their tech spinoff unit here. Farfetch Platform Solutions has become a preeminent digital partner for the luxury fashion industry. Another area that we've seen marketplaces help digitize these industries during the time of COVID was the trade shows. So, a lot of these trade shows where it's the B2B experience where you're bringing brands and the retailers together to, buy and sell and look at, the new fashion lines and all this. You've seen marketplaces move into that space and help kind of digitize those kind of trade show environments. So you've just seen marketplaces kind of penetrate up and down the supply chain as it relates to the commerce and exchange of these goods. Still though, look at overall e-commerce penetration versus total retail sales in the US. Still a long way to go for e-commerce versus overall sales out of a retail store. I would imagine the other thing here, which is not as much being talked about, is the fulfillment. Now, maybe that's not in phase one, but if not only you can solve the kind of digital customer experience for these brands, but then you can help them solve from a fulfillment standpoint. Those are the two big areas, right? How do you fulfill orders at scale? In this case, what Bergdorf is particularly talking about the international clientele. Obviously, Farfetch has very strong fulfillment capabilities. And so I think it's not as much talked about in this press release, but I would imagine maybe that's a fast follow. But you solve those two dynamics for luxury fashion retailers, and that's a big win. We got a bunch of videos on Farfetch, on investments they're making, how they're expanding internationally, doing JVs, doing a bunch of really interesting things. Go check those out if you like this video.